Do you want to find a stress-free way to buy your next car? Start at CarMax and shop your way. If you want to browse with confidence, get pre-qualified online with no impact on your credit score and shop cars within your budget, from luxury cars to family rides. CarMax has options for almost every price range, including more than 25,000 cars priced under $25,000. So, hey, want to get started? Just head to CarMax.com for details and get pre-qualified today. Want to drive? CarMax.
Hey now! What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another beautiful day and another great episode of Scott Fox After 9. Before I get into this one, I had so many people reach out in the last 24 hours since yesterday's episode dropped. It was a quick one, only 25 minutes talking about a recession and what that means. And one of the things that I tried to stress yesterday in the pod is that a recession is a recession is a recession. It doesn't matter that some want to call it a technical recession. They're doing that because they want to run a little cover for the government. It's deeply embarrassing and very concerning that Canada is in a recession. A technical recession is a recession. And you know what? Don't take my word for it. When I do this pod every day, I come to you as a conservative. I look at things through the lens of someone who leans politically right on a lot of issues. Don't just take my word for it. Take the word of former NDP leader Thomas Mulcair.
It's a huge political issue, and I love the way the word technical crab walked its way sideways and attached itself to the word recession. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to find any textbook that gives a definition of a technical recession. Yes, officer, technically I was speeding, but it was only a few miles an hour above the speed limit. A recession is a recession is a recession. 2 consecutive quarters, negative growth. Recession, not a technical recession. So Poilievre is right to go hard on that.
I feel vindicated. Tom Mulcair, former NDP leader, that was him yesterday on CTV's Power Play with Vashi Kapelos. Good show, by the way. Vashi is great. That's him saying almost exactly what I said yesterday. A recession is a recession is a recession. There's no technical recession here. Do you have a technical mortgage? Do you have a technical hydro bill? No, you've got a mortgage and you've got a hydro bill. Canada's got big financial problems. We are in a recession. And the Prime Minister hasn't talked about this yet. Last night, he was at an event in the Greater Toronto area. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on in the pod. Here is him being asked a direct question by Laura Stone from the Globe and Mail.
Prime Minister, can you...
Thank you again for coming.
Prime Minister, can you comment on the claims about a recession?
I think
and the economy, sir?
That guy has no problem just walking away from a female reporter. That's bananas. Just walked away. Asked a serious question by a serious, well-respected journalist, and he just walked away from her without saying a word. Well, now, the Prime Minister has finally spoken, everyone. It's not much, but on his way into the House of Commons today, after doing that big flight of stairs, Prime Minister Carney finally spoke. Here's what our Prime Minister says about the situation Canada finds itself in.
Do you feel we're in a recession? Are we in a recession?
I'll say this about the economy, which is that we're in the process, this government's been in the process of laying the foundations for a stronger, more resilient, more independent Canadian economy. That process is settling in during that time as we make major investments, major changes to how the government operates, how we do major projects, how we have new trade agreements with other countries. It's always difficult. I should always remember to go up the stairs more slowly or get in better shape. As we do all that, the data is going to be uneven. And, we see some weakness, in part because of clear decisions by the government. So We have taken back control of immigration. That's meant the population growth has flattened. In fact, it's slowed, or it's been negative for the last 2 quarters. We have reined in government spending. So it had been growing close to 10%. It's growing less than 2% now.
No disrespect to the Prime Minister, but I'm going to interrupt him here because there's a couple things that I've got to say. Yes, those stares are daunting. I've heard that from a number of politicians, that those stares in particular are not nice, and that's why many of them sound winded after they come up those stairs and meet members of the media. The Prime Minister saying all of this is happening, even though he refused to say recession. He did not say it. He says this is happening because we're changing around government and things are a little uneven right now. But by the time all this is done, then we'll be in great shape. A number of questions. Number one, do you remember him once when he was selling all of these grand plans, assuring us he was the guy for the job? Did he once warn us we'll probably go into a recession? I mean, he is an economic genius, right? That's what a lot of folks like to say. Mark Carney, he knows the economy. Surely he must have seen this coming then. He also said that they've reined in immigration and reined in government spending. I've seen absolutely no evidence of that. Immigration, I don't know that they've reined it in. There's still a lot of issues that are costing Canadians a lot of money. Maybe they've made an improvement on the system that they broke, but they certainly haven't reined it in. Government spending? I mean, this is the guy who just dropped $200,000 on in-flight catering. $200,000 for 3 trips. I don't believe anyone, not a single soul in this federal government, when they say something like, we've reined in government spending. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. We're spending more on interest on our debt because we continue to borrow money than we are on health care. That's how bad things are in Canada, and that's part of the reason that we find ourselves in the situation we're in. Let's hear more from the Prime Minister.
The ways on. There's some other choppiness in terms of how investment is happening. But we're also seeing at the same time the foundations coming into place, settling in for that stronger, more resilient economy. So, for example, if you look at business investment, particularly in machinery and equipment, in R&D, in intellectual property, that's actually up quite sharply in the last couple of quarters, including the most recent quarter. If you look at household incomes, they are now growing strongly. They continue to grow faster than the rate of inflation. There's more to be done without question, but they're moving in the right direction. So you have these cross currents as the economy is being fundamentally transformed. We're going to continue to work. We're making progress, but there's more to be done.
You're certainly right about that, Mr. Prime Minister. There is a lot more work to do. How long does he want Canadians to do this? A year ago, he told us we had to make sacrifices. We did, and now we're in a recession. He's kind of musing about that. Things will get better. He still won't even acknowledge that we're in a recession. Why is that? I know that politically, this is a nuke. This is just awful. Doesn't matter really if you're on the left or right. Everyone can agree that when your country goes into a recession, things are not going well. Before I play you more of the Prime Minister, let's go back and forth here. I want to play for you a little bit of Pierre Poilievre, leader of the opposition, leader of the Conservative Party. Yesterday, he was in front of the House of Commons talking to the media about the recession that Canada's in.
France is not in a recession. The United Kingdom is facing tariffs and the global energy price increase, and the United Kingdom is not in recession. Germany and Italy are facing global economic effects and tariffs. They're not in recession. Japan is facing tariffs and the global economic economy. Japan is not in recession. The United States is obviously facing tariffs and global economic factors like high energy prices, and the United States is not in recession. So why is it that only Canada, after a year of Mark Carney, is in a recession today?
Who wants to answer that one? It's fair. We're the only G7 country that's in a recession. Everybody else is facing the same headwinds, if not more, than we are. We're in a recession. None of them are. What's going on here? What's going on? How do we fix this? Because is there even a plan to fix this? Can we count on the people who broke it to fix it? That's what I'd like to know. Let's go back to last year. Last year, Mark Carney, when he was asking for our vote.
So the U.S. is driving itself into a recession, pressure on the world if the U.S. doesn't change course. The probability of a recession in the United States has gone up significantly, and I take no joy in that it becoming more likely.
Wow, Prime Minister's really got to eat his words now, doesn't he? The Prime Minister warning that America was driving itself into a recession. Well, now the rest of the G7 is doing fine, and the U.S. is pretty close to a deal with Mexico on renewing CUSMA for those two countries, and we're in a recession. How about another one from the Prime Minister last year?
Be positive. Convince Canadians that we're the right ones to manage them through this crisis. Look, if there's not a crisis, you wouldn't be seeing me. I am most useful. I'm honest. I'm most useful in crisis. I'm not that good in peacetime. Don't tell anyone, because I might, if you're going through this, okay, I'm not a good, yeah, exactly. I'll be, Churchill. You can let me know when it's 1945, and I'll be, okay.
He's the one you want around in a crisis. Okay, well, that guy got our vote. We gave it to him. We said, okay, go run the country. And he ran it right into a recession.
Well, you could ask him that question, but he won't take any of your questions. He's hiding from you. It was Friday morning that we learned that Canada's economy was the only one in a recession, the only G7 economy. And what has Mark Carney done since? He's been in hiding. Oh, yes, he let you in for 30 seconds to have a little picture of him with the Chinese foreign minister. Then he hid for the rest of the weekend. Today, he's going to let you show up and take a picture of him wearing a hard hat and carrying a hammer around, pretending he's a carpenter. But he won't have time to take questions on how he created the only recession in the G7. Question period, where normally prime ministers go to answer, especially in a moment of crisis, when the economy has fallen into the only recession in the G7. You would expect him to be there, to be accountable, to show his incredible economic brilliance, but he's not showing up for question period either. While Canadians are starving, losing their jobs, and missing mortgage payments, and Mark Carney has created the only G7 economy in a recession, he is hiding from accountability.
Today in the House of Commons is going to be very interesting because, as Pierre Poilievre just said, we found out Friday that Canada is in a recession. The Prime Minister, no doubt, knew well before those numbers came out. He knew. He would have been privy to those numbers long before the public was. He still did not bring this up on Friday. He was basically hidden all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. He did not want to get in front of a camera where he could be asked about the recession. And you already heard in this episode how he handled it when he got asked a question last night about it. Well, now it's Tuesday. Canadians deserve to hear from their Prime Minister. We need to hear what Mark Carney thinks, what he's going to do about this. Last night, Mark Carney was in the Greater Toronto area giving a speech about how he's now suddenly concerned about rising anti-Semitism in Canada. Before I play the Prime Minister's remarks last night, earlier today, the Liberal House Leader, Steve McKinnon, was asked about this topic. You'll hear the Prime Minister in a sec. This one is 30 seconds long.
The topic of yesterday was anti-Semitism. What's driving anti-Semitism in Canada?
I'm not sure I thought enough about that this morning to speak on it. I thought this Prime Minister spoke very eloquently about it, and anti-Semitism is a scourge that we must always be vigilant and fight against.
Well, if you're Jewish and wondering what the government is going to do about anti-Semitism or what they are doing, I guess there's your answer. The government House Leader didn't wake up thinking about that today. He deferred to the Prime Minister's speech from last night. Okay, well, I'll play a little bit of that speech, but it really doesn't seem like anyone in government is taking this threat all that seriously. How many different incidents does there need to be of a synagogue getting shot up, or a Jewish person being threatened and intimidated, of anti-Israeli protests happening in the streets of downtown Toronto, in some cases with terrorist flags flying? How much of that are we going to allow to happen? Maybe that would have been a good start for Steve McKinnon there to acknowledge all of that was part of the reason that Canada finds itself in the situation it's in with a wave of anti-Semitism all of a sudden. Here is the Prime Minister last night.
Differences generate friction. Accommodation of competing claims is real work sometimes. We'll always have legitimate debates about where those lines properly fall. But those debates are part of how a pluralistic country sustains itself. And today, in Canada, that nature is being tested as one of our communities is being particularly and brutally targeted.
I'm glad to hear him say that. He's right. The Jewish people have been targeted, and it has been brutal. Where has the government action been all along? This didn't just start happening. Why now? Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm glad the Prime Minister says he wants to do something about it, but frankly, a lot's already happened, and it seemed to happen unchecked. Also, I'm not so sure about this new advisory panel. Man, this guy just loves bureaucracy. He's now formed a panel that's going to examine the issues around anti-Semitism in Canada. By the way, there's only one Jewish person on it. Don't you think if we're going to talk about anti-Semitism, we should talk to more Jewish people?
Includes our faith, our history, our traditions, our culture, as Rabbi Splansky alluded. We have to hold those at the core, because to be recognized, to be truly recognized, is to be received as who you are. Pluralism in Canada is not the exception to the framework. Pluralism is the Canadian framework. Our secularism is open. The state takes no side in the matters of belief, and the institutions of public life are not captured by any faith or identity. In Canada...
Oh, Jesus. I'm going to skip over the Prime Minister. If you want to see that speech, go for it. I don't know why he's not talking like a regular person. He was in a room full of regular people, and he decided to speak like he's Churchill all of a sudden. Stop. Jewish people deserve to hear from their Prime Minister. They deserve to hear that they're going to be protected and that they're going to be respected, and anyone who does not follow that doctrine is going to be deported or dealt with by the law. How about that? That's what they wanted to hear from their Prime Minister last night. I want to go to some committee testimony that happened yesterday. The Deputy Governor of the Bank of Canada, Kerry-Lynne Rogers, was being asked questions by MPs. Let's hear a little bit of this.
What indicators would signal big concerns for you?
Big concerns about our ability
capacity,
to...
Yeah.
Well, we would very much like to see the productivity numbers turn around. Okay. If those numbers continue to decline, that would be concerning to us.
So where are we today, and what do you think is it's an achievable target then?
It's not good today. I mean, our productivity continues to decline. We need to continue to invest in capacity building, some of the education objectives that my colleague talked about. We need to try to convince or create an environment for business investment. I think all of the plans the government is laying out are good plans. There needs to be a sustained focus on implementing some of these plans. The tricky bit really is a lot of these things are going to take time to bear fruit. So there's sort of a lag in terms of how soon you're going to see the results of some of this investment show up in the types of things we watch. Productivity, certainly, it's going to take a while. Things like GDP growth, even our employment numbers. These investments take a while to get traction and really help boost the economy.
That's the Bank of Canada saying this isn't good, everybody. This isn't good. It's going to take a while. Even if Carney is right, it's going to take a while for what he's doing to actually bear any fruit. And in the meantime, we're going to have a lower GDP. We're going to struggle with employment. We're going to struggle to attract investment. This isn't good. Oh, and by the way, all of that assumption there from Kerry-Lynne Rogers that things will eventually get better, it's just going to take a while. That's assuming people don't lose complete and total confidence in our economy in the meantime. That's assuming our banks don't fail. That's assuming a lot of things. It's not good. The fact that we're in a recession scares the hell out of me, guys. This is not good news at all.
Protect your pet with insurance from Pets Best. Plans start from less than $1 a day. Visit petsbest.com. Pet insurance products offered and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC, are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company or Independence American Insurance Company. For terms and conditions, visit www.petsbest.com/policy. Products are underwritten by American Pet Insurance Company, Independence American Insurance Company, or MS Transverse Insurance Company, and administered by Pets Best Insurance Services, LLC. $1 a day premium based on 2024 average new policyholder data for accident and illness plans, pets age 0 to 10.
But I do want to get in a couple more clips of Pierre Poilievre. Yesterday, he was speaking in front of the House of Commons. I thought he had a lot of great things to say, and no, you did not see many of them on the news. So in this pod, I try and bring you a lot more context than you get from the mainstream media. Let me give you more of what Pierre Poilievre was saying yesterday. Then I've got some more committee audio for you.
Liberals are saying it's only a technicality. Sure, it meets the back-to-back declining GDP quarter after quarter definition that you find in any textbook, but that's just an economic fluke. Look at the other data. So let's do that. Let's start with jobs. In the first 3 months of this year alone, under Mark Carney, Canada's lost 112,000 jobs. There are 45,000 more unemployed Canadians than there were when Mark Carney became Prime Minister. We have the second highest unemployment in the G7, a third higher than in the U.S. Let's move from there to business investment. Remember all the investment Mark Carney was going to bring us? For 5 consecutive quarters, investment has declined in Canada. There's $20 billion in net investment that has left since he took office. In fact, there's been, when it comes to investment, we have the worst investment per capita of any country in the G7 under his leadership. And by the way, that stacks on top of the $1 trillion of net investment that had already left in the prior 10 years of the Liberal government. And that investment then flows into people's ability to pay their bills. So let's look at that. Equifax put out a data last week showing that insolvency rates have now reached their highest level since 2009, up 19% year over year under Carney. 1.5 million Canadians missed a minimum debt payment in the first 3 months of this year. Mortgage delinquency rates are up a third in 1 year. And Canada under Carney has the worst household debt of any country in the G7. Just today, the Food Bank's Canada report came out showing, and I'm quoting, something fundamental has shifted in Canada. 1/4 of people are food insecure. That's 1 in 4 people who struggle to access the food they need to be at their best. This sharp rise in food insecurity is not a surprise to the Food Bank network, which has seen demand increase year over year, with visits doubling across Canada since 2020. A country cannot be strong and resilient when so many people are struggling to pay their essentials. Too many people have incomes that do not meet the cost of living. For one thing, a job is no longer enough to ensure a reliable pathway to stability. Keeping up with rising food costs has become more difficult, even for those who are employed, who now make up 1 in 5 food bank clients. 4 in 10 Canadians are now spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And that number is the threshold to determine that they cannot afford the homes in which they live. The share of people reporting difficulty in accessing care rose steadily from 19% in 2023 to 24% in 2026.
It's a lot of numbers, I know, but it's all true. How can that be? Because when you watch the news, they don't seem all that concerned. They're saying, it's a technical recession, not the end of the world. Why aren't they talking about all of those other things that directly impact middle-class Canadians? Why aren't they doing that? Because it's simple. They're gaslighting you. They are trying to make you think that everything is fine. It's not fine. Go back and listen to that Pierre Poilievre collection of audio there. He had a lot of stats in there. It's all true and verifiable. It's all true. That's the reality of Canada right now. That's not Pierre Poilievre opposing just for the sake of opposing. That is a real issue that this Prime Minister needs to dedicate his time to. It's too important. There's too many people struggling. We can't just write this off and let it go. We can't. It's too important. Let's get to some committee audio. Let's go to Andrew Lawton. This is one of my favorite members of Parliament, I think. He is a Southwestern Ontario member of Parliament and real good at holding the government to account. This particular time around, we're going to talk a little bit about defense spending. One of the things Canada is now obligated to do is spend a ton of money, way more than we ever have, on defense. Well, as you know, and as I've said earlier in this pod, we're broke. We're borrowing money for everything these days. That is driving up inflation. That raises the possibility of higher interest rates. It's bad news when we're doing that. All because we committed to the hitting our NATO spending targets. I think we had to do that. I don't think we had any other choice. But it's going to hurt while we're doing it as long as we're wasting money in so many other areas simultaneously. And by the way, we're not even accounting for it properly. Listen to this.
Thank you to the witnesses for being here. Ms. Hadwin, you had referred in your opening statements to the increase in defense spending relative to Canada's NATO commitment and the intersection that has with the dual-use policy and the broader defense strategy. I'd like to just build off that for a moment, because I'm assuming you're aware that we've learned through order paper questions and other government information that over $10 billion of the so-called new federal spending on defense is actually just reclassified money that the government was already spending. Things on infrastructure, pensions, Coast Guard. Are you aware of that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. In order to get to 2% this year, there was an additional $9 billion. That money was invested in 4 key areas, and I'm only able to speak to it because I was part of the technical briefs for that.
I'll just be more specific. Are you aware that some of the government's stated increases in defense spending have actually just been reclassification of existing government spending?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. What I am aware of is how hard we work to move spending that we had in mind for the future into the present. So we accelerated some things that were in planning.
So I apologize. Just yes or no. Are you aware of this? If the answer is yes, I can ask about that. If the answer is no, I can ask about that. But I'm just not getting an answer to the question.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Okay. What I can say is that we moved spending that we had planned for the future into the present.
Okay.
So we brought forward things that were in planning.
Okay.
We either did more, that's the infrastructure spending, or we did...
I'll ask the question in a different way. Is there any spending that the government is lumping under the NATO spending category that previously would not have been in that category? Is there any spending that the government is now saying is defense spending, that percentage of the GDP, that a year ago would not have been construed as that? Okay, the answer is yes. I was just hoping you'd acknowledge that.
Yes, it is. The other countries must be livid at us. For years, we totally neglected our NATO spending commitments, even though we had the ability to do it. Now we don't really have the ability to do it, but we said we will. And part of the way we're going to do it is by ripping them off, counting things as defense spending that aren't really defense spending. When we talk about defense spending, that's supposed to be things on your military, building up your supply of armament and things like that. Not redoing the garden at the base that the soldiers live at. That's not really defense spending. I don't know what the rest of the world thinks of us. I mean, they must think that we're shady on some level, or I don't know. It's crazy. Let's move on to a different committee, though. Let's talk about immigration. This seems to come up every episode lately. This is Conservative Member of Parliament Garnet. Is it Genius? I don't know how to say his last name. Genuis. It's Garnet, anyway. He's the shadow minister for employment in Canada's Conservative Party. He is a real smart guy. Listen to a little bit of this.
One of the recent recommendations of this committee report on youth unemployment was to apply strict penalties to companies hiring illegal workers. Do you support that recommendation?
Yes. I mean, we have actually an enforcement branch through the the labor team that specifically looks at undocumented illegal workers. Of course, we do this in partnership with IRCC, but in terms of our role, we are specifically there to enforce the Canada Labour Code for federally regulated workers and to make sure that anyone who's using temporary foreign workers is complying with the LMIA process.
Thank you, Minister. I appreciate that. I think that's clear. Do you think it's appropriate for the government to give public subsidies to companies that have been found guilty of hiring illegal workers?
Listen, I'm sure you're referring to a specific case. We're always interested in examining those specific cases, and I'd be happy to look at that if you provide the specific case.
Sure, your government is aware of the specific case because it was provided to me in an order paper question. A case of a company that it's called Ikaboshi LPC in New Brunswick. The LPC doesn't refer to the Liberal Party, I assume, but it's a seafood processing company. They received subsidies from your government on multiple occasions after they had fired Canadian workers and illegally employed foreign nationals. Is there any explanation for why a company that fired Canadian workers to replace them with illegally hired foreign nationals would receive multiple rounds of government subsidy?
I will look into the case and come back to you. It sounds concerning to me, and it will depend on which department provided what funding, but I'm interested to know more about that.
Thank you, Minister. It was information that was provided to me through an order paper question, so I know the government is already aware of it and has been aware of it for some time, but I'll look forward to your
as a minister, I'm saying
that.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. So just to recap, we've got a company here that the Liberals are funneling tons of money into in subsidies. They fired all of their Canadian staff out there in New Brunswick and brought in a whole bunch of temporary foreign workers and got caught. Your tax dollars are subsidizing this. My tax dollars, your tax dollars, all of it. This is bananas. And the government lets it happen unless they get caught. When they get caught, oh, that's a totally different story. Now I'll look into it. I would think the minister should know, you know? Last thing I want to cover. Let's do a little bit of British Columbia politics. Over the weekend, British Columbia Conservatives elected a new leader, and it is Kerry-Lynne Findlay. She has only been the leader for a couple of days. And already, people on the left, the NDP, are trying to paint her as a Donald Trump MAGA-style politician, because that's the first thing that folks on the left will do. They'll say, you're Trump, you're MAGA. All right, well, Kerry-Lynne did get asked about that in an interview on the CBC yesterday. This is about a minute and a half long.
I want to give you a chance to respond to what the NDP put out quickly after your win. A press release came out saying Kerry-Lynne Findlay and her supporters in caucus have more in common with Donald Trump's Republicans than they do with Canadian Conservatives. And they called you the most extreme and divisive leader of a major political party in BC history. How do you respond to that?
I respond to that I think the person who put that out was Ravi Callan, who wants David Eby's job, and he's trying to position himself for a leadership bid for the NDP. And we are not the extremists. They are the extremists. They're ideological extremists, and they have had very radical policies that have hurt British Columbia, in my view. It is just silly to compare any Canadian politician to Americans because we have a completely different system, and it is not the way we operate here in Canada. This is just a form of propaganda, and of course they want to take a shot at me right away because I am now their opposition, and I'm the one they're going to be aiming at. But there's plenty for me to say.
You don't see your type of populism as reminiscent of Donald Trump's populism?
Not at all. I'm a Canadian, born and bred. We have our own way of doing things here.
That, Miss Findlay, is a perfect response. There are so many people on the right that just that's their political view. And people like me, constantly being accused of you're pro-Trump, you're MAGA, you're Maple MAGA, and all these other insults. You're a populist and all this sort of nonsense. No, you know what? Just because the media tries to frame it that way doesn't mean it's true. We do things differently in Canada. We absolutely do. And yes, we have a completely different system. I'm glad she stood up for herself, and I'm glad she stood up for the conservative movement. Friends, that's going to do it for me. I'm hoping to bring you some audio tomorrow from the Prime Minister. And what I want from the Prime Minister is something thoughtful. I want to hear some reflection on why we are in a recession, and I want to hear his plan to quickly turn this around and get us out of a recession before thousands more Canadians lose their jobs, and before a lot more businesses close, and before a lot more people lose their home and end up at a food bank. I want to hear a plan to get out of this. That's what I want to hear from the Prime Minister. Anything less is unacceptable. If he tries to deflect and make it seem like, the economy is actually much better than a recession would imply, that's nonsense. This Prime Minister has to own it. He did it. We're here. Now he's got to explain how he wants us to get out of it. Friends, I'll catch you right back here in less than 24 hours with another new episode of Scott Fox After 9. Good one today. Hope you enjoyed it. I will talk to you tomorrow.